You know that feeling, right? When you're standing right before something huge, maybe a big move or a totally new job, and there's that little voice asking, wait, am I actually ready for this?
Oh, absolutely. It's a universal feeling, I think.
And it feels especially loud, doesn't it, when we're thinking about something as, well, life-changing as marriage?
Definitely. And it's a question that maybe doesn't always get the real attention it needs. We get caught up in the excitement, the romance, and sometimes skip over checking if we are truly prepared.
Which is exactly what we're diving into today. Our guide for this exploration is Kingsley Okonkwo's book, When Am I Ready? Now, Okonkwo isn't just theorizing here. He's a senior pastor. He's run loads of relationship seminars. He's really seen this question play out.
Right. So he's coming from a place of practical experience. The book is really meant as a guide, something to help people honestly look at themselves, assess their own readiness for marriage, and also maybe see if a potential partner is ready too.
Yeah, and what I appreciate is that it feels very grounded. It uses biblical ideas, but also just years of observation of real couples. He wants to give insights that aren't just abstract, but really push for some genuine self-reflection.
Introspection.
Exactly. So our mission for you listening today is to pull out those key ideas from Okonkwo. We want to give you the tools to think critically about your own readiness. And let's be clear, this isn't some checklist to tick off.
No, not at all. It's about real self-awareness.
Right. So we'll start with how Okonkwo first frames this idea of readiness, and then we'll get into the specific pieces of personal preparation he talks about. Okay, let's unpack this.
Okay, so the book really kicks off with that direct question, are you ready? And right away, he uses this really strong analogy from the Bible, Luke 14, about someone planning to build a tower.
Ah, yeah, the idea that you wouldn't just start laying bricks without figuring out the cost, what you actually need to finish the thing.
Exactly. And marriage, he says, needs that same kind of careful thought. It's way more than just the wedding day excitement.
So much more.
He stresses that just like that tower needs a solid foundation, he references Psalm 11.3, a marriage depends on how prepared each person is. If that base isn't strong, the whole thing could, well, crumble.
And he really pushes back against
Yeah.
that feeling some people get, the time is running out, panic,
Yeah.
feeling pressured because of age. Okonkwo says, hang on, age alone isn't readiness. Marriage affects your partner. Potentially the whole family down the line is a big deal.
It is a big deal. And then he brings in this concept of becoming one flesh from Genesis. His take on it really emphasizes that each person needs to be sort of whole before they come together. If you're looking for marriage to complete you, well, that might not work out like you hope. Two halves don't always make a healthy whole.
That really shifts the focus, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not about finding someone to fix you or fill a gap.
Right.
It's about two complete people choosing to build a life together. He also uses this great analogy, unripe fruit. It looks okay on the outside maybe, but it's not ready inside. And eating it too early could actually be bad. He applies that to people who might be physically grown up, but lack that emotional maturity for marriage.
And what's really key here is how he flips the script. Instead of just focusing on finding Mr. or Mrs. Right, he says the crucial thing is becoming the right person yourself.
Okay, that's huge.
Yeah. It means looking at your own stuff, any arrogance, unrealistic ideas you might have. It makes you ask, like you mentioned in the prompt, do I only know myself when I'm in a relationship? Or do I have a solid sense of who I am on my own?
That's such a vital question. You can't really build something healthy if you have work on your own foundation, which leads nicely into his next chapter, chapter 2. What is your perspective? This feels really fundamental.
It absolutely is. He quotes Proverbs, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Basically, what you believe deep down about marriage shapes your whole attitude and, potentially, the outcome.
Makes sense.
So he challenges you to look hard at your views. Have they been shaped by bad experiences, culture, your family background? It forces that question, what do I actually believe marriage is for? And is that belief, realistic? Is it grounded?
That's so critical. We all carry these background assumptions. He talks specifically about God's perspective on marriage, seeing it as sacred, a deliberate thing between a man and a wife, not just casual dating.
Right. He points out that the language in some key texts seems to imply marriage potential right from the start, giving relationships a kind of built-in seriousness. It pushes against just drifting into things.
And then it gets really interesting when he talks about the power of our own thoughts and expectations.
Yeah.
He references a couple of scriptures there.
Yes, Genesis and Proverbs. He basically says if you have negative perspectives like believing fighting all the time is just normal or even expecting infidelity, You might, unfortunately, help create those realities.
Wow. So your mindset can become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
In a way, yes. If you expect constant conflict, you might be quicker to find it or even start it. But then he flips it and highlights the positive view of marriage in Scripture. Things like two are better than one, finding a wife is finding a good thing, woman as a helper.
Okay, so he presents both the warning and the positive potential, which leads to a big question I know people wrestle with. Is a perfect marriage even possible? It sounds almost naive.
Well, Okonkwo argues pretty strongly that yes, it is, but it's based on aligning with divine principles and making conscious choices.
Hmm.
He gives examples of ministers with famously long, apparently harmonious marriages.
Like Kenneth Hagin and Bishop Oyedepo.
Exactly. He mentions them as people who've talked about marriage without constant fighting. The key for Okonkwo isn't about never disagreeing, it's about choosing not to get into destructive quarrels, which prompts another one of those deep questions. Can you stay committed to the vision, the marriage, even when the warm, fuzzy feelings fade or things get tough?
It's about choosing love and understanding over just reacting. It's powerful. Okay, moving to chapter 3. The focus shifts. Are you informed?
Yeah, this is all about knowledge. Get informed about relationships before you jump in. He uses Hosea 4.6. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Basically, going into marriage unprepared is risky.
He uses that analogy too, building a house on rock versus sand.
Right, Luke 6. You need to dig deep, get that solid foundation of understanding if you want the marriage to last through storms. It's not something you just wing.
And he makes this really strong comparison you study for years for a career, right?
Wow.
But how much time do people actually put into preparing for marriage, which is arguably even more impactful? He really pushes for reading books, going to seminars, studying relevant texts.
And he gets practical, too, talking about understanding the differences between men and women. Like, typical thinking styles may be more logical versus more emotional, or communication goals, motivations.
Those generalizations can be tricky, but understanding potential differences can help, right?
For sure. It can prevent misunderstandings. He gives examples like women often valuing compliments, men maybe responding more to visual appreciation, even basic stuff like maintaining attraction or meeting needs like, well, cooking.
And I thought his take on courtship was so striking. Courtship is for interview, not intercourse.
That one really lands, doesn't it?
It does. It frames it as this crucial time to really get to know each other deeply. Find potential problems before you're married. Build that emotional connection first. He even says a broken courtship is better than a broken marriage, which really makes you think about handling correction or disappointment during that phase. How do you navigate that?
It underlines that courtship is serious business and evaluation. He also touches briefly on more traditional views of roles from Ephesians and 1 Peter, things like submission for wives, loving leadership for husbands, but rooted in respect and understanding.
And he finishes that chapter with a real punch. The wedding is not the marriage.
Such a good reminder.
Yeah, don't pour everything into the one-day party and forget the lifelong commitment that follows. Knowledge and preparation matter more than a fancy ceremony. Okay, next big one. Chapter 4. Are you mature?
Right, and he makes this great distinction right away. Aging is just getting old. Maturity is actually growing up. It's not automatic with time. It's about gaining wisdom, taking responsibility, having, exposure to life.
So marriage is for grown-ups,
Yeah.
essentially, not just people who've had a certain number of birthdays.
Exactly. He says maturity is a choice. Then he gives 4 words that kind of reveal maturity. The first is no,
Okay.
the ability to say no, to bad influences, temptations, setting boundaries. He uses Moses refusing Pharaoh's privileges as an example. This ties directly into that question. Do you have control over your urges, or do they control you, especially sexually?
That self-control piece is vital. Resisting things that could harm the relationship. Makes sense. What's the second word?
Balance. Finding equilibrium in how you handle time, money, relationships, work, play. Avoiding extremes. Being responsible across the board. He mentions Ecclesiastes 3 here, about seasons for everything.
So not being obsessive about one area to the detriment of others. Got it. Third word.
Control. Specifically, control over your own spirit, anger, emotions, desires. Proverbs talks about the strength in ruling your spirit. He warns against just falling for someone based on looks or surface stuff. Real love grows from knowing character.
That emotional regulation is huge in marriage, isn't it? Being able to respond thoughtfully, not just react.
Absolutely critical. Okay, and the fourth word is self-denial.
Ooh, that sounds tough.
It is. It's the ability to delay immediate gratification for a bigger long-term benefit. He uses the Esau and Jacob story, Esau selling his birthright for a bowl of stew. Right, instant pleasure versus lasting value.
Exactly. It applies to commitment in marriage, resisting temptations like, say, sex before marriage for the sake of the relationship's health.
So these four words, no, balance, control, self-denial, paint a picture of maturity. They do. And then he breaks maturity down further into different areas. Physical, like being an appropriate age to handle commitment, mental thinking for yourself, taking responsibility, not blaming others, social good communication, handling in-laws, financial earning, managing money responsibly, not being dependent.
Financial maturity seems key.
Yeah.
Is that just for men?
No, he emphasizes it's for both, referencing First Timothy. And finally, spiritual maturity, which he says isn't just about like spiritual gifts, but the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience.
Galatians 5.
Right. Having a real relationship with God, being led by his Spirit. And he stresses, again, this takes time. This also links back to that question. Are you living a responsible, purposeful life even before marriage?
All these dimensions together build something ready for partnership. Okay, chapter 5 is next. Do you know your purpose? This feels really core.
It is. Proverbs 29, where there is no vision, the people perish. Your life's purpose should guide huge decisions, definitely including marriage. Are you marrying out of loneliness, pressure, or a truly shared destiny? That's a key question here.
So you should choose someone whose purpose aligns with yours, someone who helps you achieve your goals.
That's the idea. He uses Adam having work in the garden before Eve came along as a helper suited to that work. And Amos 3.3, can two walk together unless they are agreed? Your life directions need to mesh.
This is not just about liking the same movies. It's about bigger life visions.
Much bigger. And you need to understand your partner's purpose, too. He uses an example of, say, singers in a choir needing that shared passion.
He also says don't marry just based on who someone is now, but where you're both going.
Crucial point. Especially for people in ministry, clarity of calling is vital for choosing the right partner. You want to avoid division, literally, two visions pulling in different directions. Talk about it. Settle it before marriage. He gives the example of a pastor's wife needing to be supportive of the ministry.
So the advice is essentially get a life. Have your own purpose beyond just getting married.
Exactly. Marriage adds to fulfillment. It's not the only source of it.
Such a healthy perspective. Okay, last chapter in this section, chapter 6. Are you single? And you said this isn't about relationship status.
Correct. It's not about being unmarried. Being single here isn't bad or incomplete. He quotes Miles Monroe. The quality of the marriage depends on the quality of the individuals, like an omelet depends on the eggs.
Okay, so what does single mean in this context?
He breaks it down. Unique, separate, and whole.
Let's take unique first.
Being unique is about embracing who you are. Your specific gifts, personality, looks. Don't try to be a copy of someone else to please a partner. Be the best you.
Love that. Your individuality is valuable. What about separate?
Separate means your self-worth comes from inside, not from depending on someone else to make you feel okay. Develop solid self-esteem that isn't just based on what others think. Don't put people down to feel better yourself.
Secure in yourself. Got it. And finally, whole.
Whole means you've dealt with past hurts and brokenness. You're not dragging emotional baggage into the new relationship because, as he says, hurting people hurt people. It makes you ask, am I healed from my past or am I carrying wounds into this?
So important to address that.
Take time to heal. He suggests faith and self-care can bring wholeness.
Okay, so being single, in Okonkwo's view, is about being complete before you unite with someone else. Unique, separate, whole. Ready to form a healthy one-flesh connection.
Exactly. You bring your completeness to the table, not your needs and gaps, expecting the other person to fill them.
Wow. This first part has given us so much to think about regarding personal readiness, perspective, knowledge, maturity, purpose, and this idea of being whole or single. We're going to pause right here for just a moment. But don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we'll shift focus to evaluating your readiness with another person. Stay with us. Commercial break.